Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Today we are here with our next lecture of Public International Law. So the next articles in the United Nations Charters are based on the procedure. Article 20. The General Assembly shall meet in regular annual sessions and in such special sessions as occasions may require. Special sessions shall be convoked by the Secretary General at the request of the Security Council or of a majority of the members of the nations. Like for some particular matters, United Nations can basically organize some special sessions to deal with the matters. Special sessions will be organized by the Secretary General and Security Council will basically request the Secretary General for the organizing of these particular sessions. There must be some emergency, of course, uh, in organizing those sessions. Like there must be some situation of law and order in the world, or there may be war, or there may be any kind of havoc or any kind of natural disaster. So to handle with all these things, ultimately General Assembly requires to organize the special sessions. Article 21. The General Assembly shall adopt its own rules of procedure. It shall elect its president for 8 sessions. General Assembly will adopt its own rules, its own procedures, and by following its own rules and procedures, which are further mentioned in the United Nations Charters, to elect their president. General Assembly may establish such subsidiary organs as it deems necessary for the performance of its functions. Like for some special cases, General Assembly may require to organize or to arrange some special organs, or we can say some special subparts of an organization. So it is necessary, and those subparts are very important to perform its functions in General Assembly, or we can say United Nations, can further made some more organs uh, so they can perform their task well. Security Council. The Security Council composition. Article 23 of the United Nations Charters explain the composition of the Security Council. The Security Council shall consist of 15 members of the United Nations, the Republic of China, France, Union of Soviet, that is now Russia, basically Socialist Republic. Uh, uh, it was like USSR in past, and now it's Russia, the United Kingdom of Great Britain and North Ireland, United States of America shall be the permanent members of the Security Council, as they are the permanent members of the United Nations. The General Assembly shall elect 10 other members of the United Nations to be non-permanent members of the United Nations. Like there will be 15 permanent members and 10 other members who will not be permanent, and it will be the responsibility of the United Nations permanent members to elect those 10 members. The non-permanent members of the Security Council shall be elected for a term of 2 years in the first elections of the non-permanent members after the increase of the membership of the Security Council from 11 to 15. 2 of the 4 additional members shall be chosen for a term of 1 year. A retiring member shall not be eligible for immediate re-election. It is the responsibility of the permanent members to elect the non-permanent members, and as previously the permanent members of the Security Council were 11 and now those are 15. So two of the four, like if there are 10 members, then out of 8 members, 4 members will be the additional members and they will be chosen for 1 year. And if as the 1 year will be ended, of course they have to retire from their services. So they can't they will not be eligible for the immediate re-elections, like as they got retire and ultimately they stand for a re-election. Each member of the Security Council shall have one representative, as Pakistan previously Pakistan has Maliha Lodi as the representative of the United Nations, and currently there is some other person. I just skipped the name of that person from my mind, but now we have another permanent member in the United Nations. Functions and powers. What are the functions and powers of the United Nations? So Article 24 explains the functions and powers of the United Nations. First, in order to ensure prompt and effective action by the United Nations, its members confer on the Security Council primary responsibility for the maintenance of international peace and security, and agree that in carrying out its duties under the responsibility of the Security Council acts on their behalf. For example, if there is any kind of situation of war or situation of law and order, so the members of the Security Council firstly it's the primary responsibility of the members of the Security Councils to look for the matter and maintain international peace and security, and ultimately all of the member must be agree in carrying out their duties under the responsibility which is given to them by the Security Council, and they have to act on their behalf. Like they can't act as a state. Ultimately they have to act as the member of the Security Council, and they will have to follow the rules and regulations which are defined by the Security Council. They can't cross their power limits. Ultimately, like whatever they will do within the premises of the Security Council, or we can say within the uh, power bound of Security Council, and it is their responsibility to handle the situation with peace and security. Next is, in discharging these duties, the Security Council shall act in accordance with the purpose and principles of the United Nations. The specific powers granted to the Security Council for the discharge of these duties are laid down in Chapter 6, 7, 8, and 9. So, ultimately, there are some specific powers which are granted to the Security Council, and these powers are already defined in some chapters. So the members of the Security Council has to uh, rule their power, has to examine their power according to the power which are written in the United Nations Charter, and they have to follow the purposes and the principles which are explained by the United Nations. The Security Council shall submit annual and when necessary special reports to the General Assembly for its consideration. For example, if of course there are a lot of matters in the world which are linked with the security and the peace of the world. So the members of the Security Council are not only bound to submit their reports annually as we have read previously, but ultimately if there is some special issue, if there is some worse issue, there is some necessary issue, so the members of the Security Council can submit some necessary and special reports to the General Assembly in the mid start or at any time of the year. So General Assembly can consider the issue and the issue would be resolved as soon as possible. Then Article 25, the Article 25 of the United Nations Charter explain that the member of the United Nations agree to accept and carry out the decisions of the Security Council in accordance with the present charter. Like if Security Council decide about something, or it gave a verdict about some case, then now it's the responsibility of the United Nations members to ultimately accept it, and they have to follow the rules which are explained by the United Nations. Article 26, in order to promote the establishment and maintenance of international peace and security with the least diversion for armaments of the world's human and economic resources, the Security Council shall be responsible for formulating, with the assistance of the Military Staff Committee referred to in Article 47, plans to be submitted to the members of the United Nations for the establishment of a system for the regulation of armaments. For example, of course, there are many countries in the world who are making these armaments, uh, and ultimately these armaments can affect the the world peace, but uh, but uh, the state's economic resources are attached with it. So it is the responsibility of the Security Council to formulate a rule book with the help of its military staff committee, where they must explain Article 47 explain this thing basically, where they must explain that how the system must be regulated, and how any of the state who wanted to produce armaments, and further what are the rules they will have to follow, and they can't uh, like uh, do any kind of effect to this world peace and security. This is it for today. Thank you so much. If you have any queries, you can definitely ask at the end of the lecture.